You may remember Susan Boyle from Britain's Got Talent as the quiet, unassuming vocalist who shocked viewers across the globe. Over 10 years have passed since that incredible occasion, but I still don't see her. Join us as we explore Susan Boyle's life and how she has changed since she first won our hearts, beginning with her humble beginnings and ending with her international stardom. Do you recall how the viewers of Britain's Got Talent voted Susan Boyle off the stage the second she stepped foot on the stage in 2009? She transitioned from the Catwoman to the voice that broke the internet in under 90 seconds, much like Simon Cowell did. Nearly 15 years later, Susan's life is a living, glittering fairy tale without the prince and the glass slipper, but with plenty of other magical elements. Even in this day and age, Susan's love of singing is unwavering. Still, she's following her heart and singing notes that the rest of us can only imagine when we're in the shower, but her meteoric climb to stardom? We shall talk about that story later on, but it is worth repeating. Susan had been singing in church and working odd jobs to make ends meet before she auditioned. She led a peaceful existence in her small Scottish community. Then there was the assessment. Upon her arrival on stage, the disbelief of the audience was almost audible. Simon appeared uninterested, she anxious, and the crowd appeared prepared to cringe. Subsequently, she parted her lips. The audience fell silent as her voice, raw and forceful, silenced all skeptics. As soon as she concluded performing Les Miserables, I Dreamed a Dream, the crowd went wild with ovation. The unusual sight of even Simon's eyebrows arching in surprise was quite remarkable. Susan Boyle's audition video became viral in a matter of days. Even more so than President Obama's inauguration, it became 2009's most watched YouTube video. The performance by Susan Boyle was outstanding. People were deeply affected. She struck a chord with people all across the globe. No one remembers who won Britain's Got Talent anyhow, so it's okay, she came in second. This was only the beginning of Susan's adventure. People were dreaming when she released her debut album, I Dreamed a Dream, while riding the crest of her unexpected fame. Amazon had trouble keeping up with the pre-orders as the album broke records. Upon its release, it quickly became a global phenomenon, topping charts around the globe. Without warning, Susan rose from the ranks of a local vocalist to that of a worldwide superstar. However, being famous isn't all fun and games. In its crate it resides. Susan has, throughout her career, managed the stresses of fame and the unpredictability of the entertainment industry. She has been releasing albums and performing for devoted fans, but she has reduced her media appearances, likely for her own sanity, a little. Everyone needs a respite from the relentless glare of the cameras, even famous people. But still, all of Susan's achievements are self-evident. She is more than simply a singer, she is a living icon, with over 25 million records sold in 35 countries and 120 albums certified gold or platinum. And here we are in the year 2024, and she is still going strong, utilizing her position to bring attention to ASD. It is absolutely astonishing how Susan Boyle rose to stardom. Coming from a little town in Scotland to being a household name all around the world is quite remarkable. That is the material for great cinema. As a member of a musically gifted family, Susan inherited her passion for singing from her father, a 1-2 veteran who also performed as a pub entertainer in his own time. She grew up with her mom as her first music instructor. She was a gifted pianist. Although Susan's voyage was not filled with joy and infectious music, the karaoke night at their house was surely famous. She had a lot of self-doubt and endured bullying as a child, partially due to her belief that her birth defect was a learning handicap brought on by oxygen deprivation. Similarly, she disliked school. There was no instruction manual for her self-assurance, and she departed with few credentials. She received the devastating diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome in her early 50s. All of a sudden, she began to understand. Because of that insight, Susan didn't limit herself to self-awareness. I can't believe she went all superhero on me. Up to the plate as an advocate for autism awareness. She dispelled myths and educated the public about autism using her newfound prominence. What started Susan's passion? Let's take a trip down memory lane and talk about it. In the sleepy village of Blackburn, West Lothian, Susan Boyle spent her childhood as the 9th child of 10. Even though he was a minor at the time, Patrick was a veteran of World War II and, according to reports, a talented singer at a dive bar in town named the Bishop's Blaze. Bridget, her mother, raised enough children to field a football team while also juggling shorthand typing. Although they shared a birthplace in Motherwell, Lanarkshire, both of their families had roots in County Donegal, Ireland. Like her talent, Susan's origins ran deep. Susan had a rocky birth, coming into this world when her mother was 45 years old. She blamed her learning problem on a difficult delivery that briefly cut off her oxygen supply for a long time. She didn't find out she had been misdiagnosed until 2012. It was discovered that she has an above-average intelligence and falls on the autism spectrum. Basically, she has spent her entire life underestimating her abilities, while the rest of us are still finding our footing on Wordle. She didn't particularly enjoy the part about school. She left without any experience, had to deal with bullying, and was likely more concerned with making it through than with really succeeding. Still, Susan refused to allow that to define who she was. She kept her aspirations alive note by enrolling in government training programs and performing at local venues. Fred O'Neill was her musical mentor, and she dabbled in acting while attending the Edinburgh Acting School. She was a singer on church pilgrimages to Ireland's Knock Shrine and a participant in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. She tried out for Michael Barrymore's 1995 film My Kind of People. She wasn't about to give up just because it didn't catapult her to stardom. At Heartbeat Studios, she recorded hits including Killing Me Softly and Cry Me a River in 1998. She sent out a polished demo that she had funded with her savings to anybody would listen. You name it, record labels, radio stations, etc. The world failed to notice Susan's remarkable voice until her now iconic audition for Britain's Got Talent, which took place years later. Those preliminary songs, too? They were so popular that not even the internet could turn a blind eye to them. Susan Boyle was showcasing her West Lothian musical talents by 1999. Sounds of West Lothian, Music for a Millennium Celebration, was a charity CD that she contributed to. Because there were only 1,000 produced, it is today considered a rare and valuable collectible. The West Lothian Herald and Post's Amber McNaught was one of the first reviewers to praise Susan's performance of Cry Me a River, describing it as heartbreaking and confessing that she had the CD on non-stop. Susan had already broken hearts before she became famous online. After her appearance on Big Britain's Got Talent, the same recording came up online years later, and Hello! Magazine said that it officially made her a famous singer. Time is of the essence, isn't it? Without a doubt, Susan didn't magically appear on the BGT stage. Despite her mother's incessant nagging, her daughter never stopped performing for audiences outside of church and local talent shows. However, Susan was not convinced. She was so sure they were only looking at physical attractiveness that she notoriously didn't even bother to audition for X Factor. She could have been onto something, to be honest. She nearly gave up when it came to Britain's Got Talent, assuming she was too old to compete. Fortunately, Fred O'Neill, her vocal coach, provided her with the encouragement she required. Susan, you need to go out and demonstrate your abilities. For what reason did Susan decide to take the plunge? Her mother. A profound yearning to honor her memory and share her voice with the world washed over Susan after she lost her. She wasn't merely following a fantasy when she took the stage. It was a way to honor the one who had unwavering faith in her. Susan did more than just pay tribute to her mom with that remarkable performance. She made millions of people question their initial skepticism. To try her hand at stardom, Susan Boyle auditioned for Britain's Got Talent in August 2008. She was approved to participate in the show as contestant number 43212 following a brief tryout in Glasgow. On stage at the Clyde Auditorium, she casually brought up her desire to be Elaine Page's size. At that point, she sang I Dreamed a Dream from the musical Les Miserables, and, well, people were shocked. Over 10 million people tuned in to the April 2009 show, and their reactions ranged from skepticism to outright shock. It was such a wake-up call, even Judge Amanda Holden conceded. Susan was absolutely floored by the reaction. Elaine Page went so far as to offer to sing a duet with Susan after describing her as an inspiration. Her performance at the Vancouver production of Les Miserables did more than win over audiences, it also increased ticket sales. Cameron McIntosh, the show's producer, praised her performance, saying it was moving and inspirational. Susan moved on to the semifinals after dominating the public vote and nailing the cat's memory. The finals seemed like they were going to be easy for her. However, in an unexpected turn of events, she was defeated by Diversity, a dance company that most likely wasn't expecting to triumph over the internet's next favorite singer. Nonetheless, the finale drew a record-breaking 17.3 million viewers. Things began to become difficult thereafter. Not in a good way, but the press just couldn't get enough of Susan. She was having a hard time adjusting to her overnight celebrity since they began probing into her private life and mental health. She was so exhausted by the end of the finals that she checked herself into a private mental clinic. An unexpected act of generosity on Simon Cowell's part was to offer to let her miss the BGT tour. She was even wished well by the Prime Minister. However, Susan's loved ones promised the public that she would not give up. The White House extended an invitation for her to perform on Independence Day. "I can understand their thoughts, but it doesn't matter if I can sing," Susan remarked. This is not a pageant. Indeed, she was correct. Ability is more important than appearance or anticipation. Boyle came back to the clinic 3 days later to announce her joining the Britain's Got Talent tour. "Worried about your health?" "My health is a major issue." Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Dublin, Sheffield, Coventry, and Birmingham were among the places whose crowds were ecstatic since she appeared at 20 of the 24 performances. Despite rumors that she buckled under pressure, she played like an old hand, and the Belfast Telegraph couldn't help but rave about her. After that, Boyle's first album, I Dream to Dream, was released on November 23, 2009. This wasn't your average album. It was amazing. It broke records at a rate faster than Susan Boyle could say I Dream to Dream thanks to its plethora of hit songs like Wild Horses, You'll See, Cry Me a River, and the title track. There has never been a debut album that sold more copies in the UK than that one. In a just week, 411,820 copies were sold, surpassing even Leona Lewis's legendary sales. Boyle proved she wasn't a one-hit wonder when she performed in the United States. The first week sales of her album were staggering, at 701,000 copies. That's the kind of thing that first-time artists like Susan fantasize about. It didn't even stop there, though. Despite falling just short of Taylor Swift's Fearless, the album spent 6 weeks atop the Billboard charts and sold more than 3 million copies in the US by year's end. Nonetheless, Boyle emerged victorious. In 2009, it sold more copies than any other physical album. Apparently, there is still a market for physical CDs. It became the fastest-selling debut by a female artist with over 2 million copies sold in its first week globally. It was the first album by an artist from outside of Italy to reach #1 in Italy in its first month of release, and even Italy couldn't resist. I Dreamed a Dream, the Susan Boyle story, Susan's television special, was the cherry on top of an already fantastic year. In the UK, it attracted 10 million people and featured a duet with Elaine Paige. It surpassed all previous TV Guide network shows in terms of viewership in the United States. Impressive, considering the woman won over the crowd with her golden voice a year ago. Susan Boyle opted for a change of pace with her second album, The Gift, a Christmas record. As an incentive for her followers to become excited, she hosted a contest called Susan's Search. The grand prize was a duet with herself on the album. On November 8, 2010, the album was eventually released. As time went on, Susan's experience in the studio grew. Steve Mack, her producer, said that they opted for a more traditional method since she was at ease with it. They assembled a full band, practiced the songs, and discovered Susan's preferred approach before entering the recording studio. The objective was for her to feel a personal connection to the music and the lyrics she was singing. Next, Susan released her autobiography, My Story, The Woman I Was Born to Be, in October 2010. Thanks to The Gift, it topped the album charts in both the United Kingdom and the United States by November. That made her one of 3 people and the first woman to have 2 albums go straight to the top in the same year. As if that weren't merry enough, she went on to perform O Holy Night on The View and then made an appearance on NBC's Christmas at Rockefeller Center, where she sang Away in a Manger and Perfect Day. On August 2011, during America's Got Talent's second semi-final results program, she also performed. Someone to Watch Over Me, her third studio album, was released later that year in case anyone had forgotten about her. Susan Boyle released Standing Ovation, a collection of her finest performance songs, in November 2012. It was her 4th studio album. She aspired to play piano on this album and took lessons for it, in case you didn't know. According to a songwriter, Susan had always aspired to play the piano to the point where she could showcase it on stage and in her recordings. Speaking of famous people, Susan appeared in a duet with Placido Domingo on Shania Twain's From This Moment and from his album Songs, which came out in October 2012. That wasn't all Susan did. Eleanor Hopewell, in The Christmas Candle, was her first acting job after she gave it a go. The film, which is based on the book by Max Lucado, is an uplifting account of a small English hamlet that is praying for a miracle in the 19th century. A week after its US release, the picture made its way to UK theaters on November 22, 2013. Being Susan did not feel she was a movie character. She raved about the wonderful crew and her enthusiasm for being a part of The Christmas Candle. The next week, she published her album Home for Christmas, which featured the original song Marvel Hymn that she had the opportunity to sing. On the same record, there was a duet of O Come All Ye Faithful with Elvis Presley. Susan was engrossed in TV as well. She played the lead role in Susan Boyle's I Dreamed a Dream. With an improbable celebrity, Susan Boyle, in a 2011 documentary. Her covert battle began in December 2013 when she made her appearance on ITV's There's Something About Susan, which subsequently aired on US networks under the name Susan Boyle. On his 2013 album Sending You a Little Christmas, American singer Johnny Mathis featured a duet of Do You Hear What I Hear? Best Wishes. The album's theme, Hope, served as inspiration for its uplifting ballads and more energetic tracks, which were all about moving forward. A live rendition of You Raise Me by the Lakewood Church Choir was even incorporated by her. Not to boast, but the album spent 35 weeks at the top of the Billboard Top Inspirational Albums list after debuting at number 16 on the Billboard 200. Even in 2016, it managed to sell 115,000 copies in the US. For the 2014 Commonwealth Games opening ceremony in Glasgow, Scotland, Susan sang Mull of Kintyre to welcome Queen Elizabeth II. Following that, in 2015, she took a small break to spend quality time with her loved ones, delaying the recording of her next album until 2016. Then, in 2018, Susan decided she was ready to win big again and joined the champions of America's Got Talent. She went straight to the finals in January 2019 after performing Wild Horses, which earned her a golden buzzer from Judge Melby. She narrowly missed out on a spot in the top 5, unfortunately. The 4-bedroom house in Blackburn that Boyle was able to purchase with her salary in 2010 is still her home. All 8 of her siblings have left the nest after her father's death in the 1990s. Until her untimely death in 2007 at the age of 91, she devoted herself fully to caring for her mother and had never been married. According to a neighbor, after Boyle's mother passed away, he stayed indoors for many days and said he needed a break from the world. She's not to fault, though. Dealing with loss is tough. Boyle is a devoted Catholic who has sang in the chorus at her church before. Even now, she continues to lend a hand by visiting the senior members of the group. To be honest, her description of her life before celebrity sounded quite ordinary and normal, which is probably true for a lot of individuals. Boyle courageously revealed her 2012 diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome in 2013. Her epilepsy adds an extra layer of complexity to her life. But Boyle says, no thanks when asked about internet dating. As a joke, she said in 2012 that she would go on a date and come out with her limbs strewn across several Blackburn bins because her luck would be that poor. Boyle entered the fight to retain Scotland's membership in the United Kingdom in 2013 through the Better Together initiative. She doesn't want to be a nationalist, but she is proud of her background. It is reasonable that she thinks Scotland can maintain its independence while still being a part of Britain. Regarding her well-being, Boyle is completely against drinking, as she is a teetotaler. Despite being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2013, she continues to push herself to her limits. She dated her first boyfriend, a man her own age, in 2014, according to reports. Later that year, in 2022, she suffered a small stroke, but she is still going strong. In fact, she brought it up during her appearance on Britain's Got Talent in June of 2023. Well, that concludes it.